What's good, everybody? It's the Cloudwood Cab Show. NFL Week 13, some huge games. Let's start off on Thanksgiving Day. We had the best team in the NFL. The Detroit Lions beat the Chicago Bears. We saw the Chicago Bears fumble the bag. They had 32 seconds left and a timeout. And Caleb Williams and their head coach decide, hey, it's just not smart to call a timeout. Let's just let it go down to 0 or down to 6 seconds and let's run the play and lose the game. It's a disaster in Chicago. The Chicago Bears organization is trash. And it really sucks for Caleb Williams. We're talking about a guy that has so much talent, who's a rookie right now, who has a lot of potential in the NFL. He really does. And he threw for 3 touchdowns against the Detroit Lions, but it just wasn't enough. Shout out the Detroit Lions. They are the best team in the NFL by a long shot. We look at them, and they're stacked everywhere. The best running back duo, Gibbs and Montgomery. They just have all the assets you need to win a Super Bowl, and it starts with Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. Those two men right there, they can lead them to bigger and better things in Detroit, man. What a time it is to be in Detroit, man. They continue to win games and win. And then we had the New York Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys won by 7 points. This was a relatively close game. We look at Drew Lock for the Giants. He had 0 touchdowns and 1 pick, and it was all the Cowboys, really. And we look at Cooper Rush. He had 1 touchdown, 195 yards passing, and it was kind of sloppy. And we look at CeeDee Lamb and say, wow, he only had 39 yards receiving off 2 receptions, and it's not the CeeDee Lamb that we're used to seeing, right? Obviously, with Dak being out, Cooper Rush is in now. It's unfortunate. We look at CeeDee and say, this is a down season for him. Even though he got paid over the offseason, he got the big bag. But overall, it's just like, what is it going to show now? You guys aren't even going to make the playoffs this year. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, who are always in the media outlet, who would do anything to get the attention, the fame, anything. I'm telling you, the Dallas Cowboys would suck a dick just to get on TV, and that's what they do. They love doing it, and we look at Jerry Jones and realize, wow, you haven't been relevant since the 90s, bro. Like, straight up, like, it's time to sell the organization to some young billionaire, maybe even a guy like Elon Musk. Sell it to Elon, man. Have Elon take over the Dallas Cowboys, because right now, what Jerry Jones is doing, man, it's pathetic there. It's really a disgrace. And then we got the Green Bay Packers beating up on the Miami Dolphins. I had Miami Dolphins with the upset. I thought for sure they would, but, it was all, Green Bay, and Green Bay was a smarter bet. At home, in the freezing temperatures, we're talking about the Miami Dolphins, who are used to the Miami weather, used to 80s and sunny every single day, used to girls in bikinis. Like, it's just a different reality in Miami compared to Green Bay. It's just a day and night different. It makes sense. Tua's not good in the cold weather, so it's just a dumb bet by me. Even though Tua had 365 yards passing and 2 tutties, it just wasn't enough. And Tyreek Hill did get in. Devin Achane got in. But for Green Bay, man, they're clicking at the right time. Jordan Love, 274 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs had a touchdown. And then you had Jalen Reed, who had 2 touchdowns. Shout out to Jaden Reed. He's a baller, man. Top 10 receiver in the NFL. And when they go to him, when Green Bay and Jordan Love go to Jaden Reed, man, I'm telling you, everything starts to click. He's like a Deebo Samuel 2.0. He really is, man. So shout out to the Green Bay Packers. They continue to rack up the win column. And then we had the Black Friday game, the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City won by 2 points. This was a nail-biter, and I feel bad for O'Connell, man. He actually had a good game. He had 340 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. The end was just a disaster for the Las Vegas Raiders. They had the opportunity to hit a game-winning field goal to win the game. But, that's definitely did not what happened. But we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs here, who are 11-1, who are just don't look really good right now. Even though they're winning these close games, we just look at Kansas City and say, I don't know what it is, but right now, Mahomes, just doing barely what he needs to do. 1 touchdown, that's it. It's not like a Patrick Mahomes type of like a game. It's just kind of like weird. Travis Kelce, just honestly down right now. It's just like he hasn't really done much either. Yes, he had 68 yards overall. This game, 0 touchdowns. So it's just like, I get it. Travis Kelce's in his bag right now, married to a billionaire and Taylor Swift, the most famous woman on the world. Like, we get it, bro. Like, you're winning right now, Travis Kelce. My thing is, are you guys going to three-peat? Is that the realistic answer? And right now, I'm looking at Kansas City on eye test right now after Week 13. No, Kansas City is not going to three-peat. They're going to lose in the playoffs at some point to a bigger and better team like the Baltimore Ravens. like the Buffalo Bills. Somebody like that on paper that's looking better right now. And I'm talking Buffalo just won last night, so Buffalo Bills are looking nice, man. But Kansas City, man, they need to turn it around. And I'm looking at Mahomes and saying, hey, bro, like, it's time, bro. Like, you're just getting by on these games. It's like, if you guys really want a three-peat, you're going to have to play way better than what you are. But we've seen it so many times and time again with Patrick Mahomes. Come playoff time, just that switch flips. And he just flips that switch, and it's on. And that's what Mahomes does. So I can't wait to see what Kansas City does in the playoffs. The sky's the limit for them. They're going to be the first team to ever three-peat if they do it successfully this year. So it's going to make history right now. But I just look at on the outside in. I'm not worried about the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Yes, they have a great defense. That's the reason they're 11-1 right now is because of their defense. Has nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes because he's not playing that great. He's just not. But shout out to Kansas City Chiefs at home getting a big win on Black Friday. And then I got my Indianapolis Colts going in to the Patriots and getting the dub. I knew this would happen. I was so confident in my Indianapolis Colts getting the dub. 25-24. We went for it. We succeeded. Anthony Richardson, 109 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions. He also had a rushing touchdown. So we look at that, and then Alec Pierce had a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor had a touchdown. And we saw when we scored 23-24, I love how the coach said, hey, let's go for 2. Let's go for the game right now. This is all or nothing. And we gave it to Anthony Richardson on a play action to JT. It was great. It was great execution. Smart for the Indianapolis Colts. And we saw this weekend, man, it's just another game for the Colts to get back in that win column and to get back into the race against Houston Texans. So I love what the Colts are doing right now. And we're talking about my Colts right now who, yes, they play the Denver Broncos next weekend. That's a huge test. And then we end up playing the Tennessee Titans, New York Giants, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the last 3 games of the season, the Indianapolis Colts should win all 3 games. The toughest test is definitely next week. But if we win out, we're going to get into a wild card. But like I said, the reality is going to hit for my Indianapolis Colts that we're probably going to get bounced the first round of the playoffs if we end up making that wild card. It's just part of it, man. It's just we're in that rebuilding stage right now. We're still trying to find our identity, who we are as a team. But I do love how Anthony Richardson is playing right now. And I do like how my Colts are flying to the ball, making tackles, making plays. So this was a huge win in New England. Historically, we don't do well up there. And we came in and we went for 2. We went for the game at the end of regulation. And I love that. I love that. And that's playing to win the game. That's not playing to, let's tie and make the right play. No, we need to play to win the game. We're 5-7 at that moment. We end up capitalizing. Now we're 6-7. So shout out to my Indianapolis Colts, man. Anthony Richardson, man. I got to give him respect now. Respect is due. Shout out to Anthony Richardson, man. I understand you took a break on your helmet about a month or 2 ago. You ended up getting benched. It's been a long season for Anthony Richardson, but if they can cap it off and make a playoff run here, this would be a success for Anthony Richardson and my Indianapolis Colts. Let's go! And then we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Carolina Panthers in overtime. This was a heartbreaker. I actually had the upset. I thought Carolina would win this game, and they had it in the bag relatively, and it's just how it goes sometimes in the NFL. Like, it just doesn't go your way sometimes. Baker Mayfield had 2 interceptions, just 1 touchdown. So it's just like, man, when Baker throws more picks than touchdowns, you should win the game. Mike Evans, 118 yards receiving in 1 touchdown, 8 receptions. Typical for Mike Evans, man. Mike Evans is a dog. He's a future Hall of Famer. Ever since he got in the league in 2014, 1,000-plus yards every single season. Homage to Mike Evans, man. He is a legend. Bucky Irvin, 152 yards rushing and a touchdown. So, it was, at the end it was, man. But, shout out to Bryce Young, man. 298 yards passing and a touchdown. He did everything he could to win this game. Adam Thielen had that touchdown to go up and score. So, shout out to the Carolina Panthers. They showed a lot of heart with Bryce Young. And I'm looking at Bryce Young right now, and it's kind of like a science project. Like, you handle Bryce Young right. You get the right pieces around him this offseason. We're talking about Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers, a team that can compete for a playoff spot next year. So I'm not giving up on Carolina and Bryce Young. The future is bright for that young man. They just do not need to fumble the bag on him. They need to put the right players, the right pieces around Bryce Young, and the Carolina Panthers will be a successful football team in the future. Mark my words. And then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers beating up on the Cincinnati Bengals 44-38. This was a really close game. It went either way. This was a coin flip game. We look at Joe Burrow, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Chase Brown had a touchdown, 70 yards rushing. Jamar Chase had a touchdown. T. Higgins had a touchdown. But at the end of the day, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Russell Wilson, had 3 touchdowns, 414 yards passing, and 1 pick. Najee Harris had a touchdown. George Pickens had a touchdown. I'm telling you, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers are surprising a lot of people, including myself. I did not think the Pittsburgh Steelers would be where they're at right now. I just don't, man. They're 9-3. Yes, Russell Wilson is okay. I do think, with Justin Fields, man, he likes to come in on the third down plays. Those are huge. And we saw Justin Fields, win the game at that third down play where he scrambled for like 10 yards. And that's what you need from Justin Fields, who is going to be the starting quarterback eventually. I mean, Russell Wilson is way past his prime. The heydays in Seattle are over there. But, shout out to Mike Tomlin, man. He's a future Hall of Fame coach. He's smart, man. He's got 44 points put up. He put up 44, and you bet you Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers are happy with that because typically they don't put up big numbers. But this game they did, and that was a huge win for the Pittsburgh Steelers to Mike Tomlin. Shout out to Mike Tomlin. And then we got the LA Chargers beating the Atlanta Falcons 17-13. This was a close game, too. And really, we look at Kirk Cousins, and I told you guys from the jump, Kirk Cousins is an overrated quarterback, and they paid him way too much money. He had 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. That's why you guys lost this game, because of Kirk Cousins. I'm not going to blame anybody else. I'm not going to blame the coach or the offensive line. No, there was a lot of throws Kirk Cousins made was like, wow, bro, are you trying to throw the game right now? Did you get paid under the table to throw these bad throws? Because I cannot believe it, bro. Like 4 picks. Kirk Cousins, you just put up 50 fantasy points like 2 months ago against against the New Orleans Saints. And, you do this, 4 interceptions, dude. Kirk Cousins, he needs to be benched, man. Start the rookie, man, out of Washington. I'm telling you right now, Michael Penix, man, start him, please. And then Justin Herbert, he had 147 yards passing, no touchdowns, no picks. Relatively quiet game for the Chargers, man. And then you had McConaughey. He had 117 yards receiving and 9 receptions. Ladd McConaughey's becoming their number 1 receiver right now in L.A., but we look at the Chargers, they're 8-4, man. They got a huge road win on the road. So in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins, man, Kirk Cousins is terrible, dude. Overrated. One of the most overrated quarterbacks I've ever seen, dude. He's just terrible, man. Shout out to the LA Chargers getting a big win on the road. And then we got the Seattle Seahawks going into New York Jets and beating them 26-21. And we look at the Jets and say, well, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is washed up. 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's washed, man. It's over for Aaron Rodgers, man. Go back to doing ayahuasca, go back to doing shrooms, freaking Aaron Rodgers, because right now, dude, you're just not a professional quarterback anymore. You're washed up. Father Time has passed you. It's over for Aaron Rodgers. This is the last year we'll ever see him in the NFL, and if he does resign for 1 more year, please do not pick him up in fantasy because he's not that type of quarterback anymore. Geno Smith, 206 yards passing and a touchdown. You had it was just a great performance for Seattle Seahawks to come back. We saw the pick 6 they had, touchdown. I think it was 90-some yard pick 6 touchdown. And like I said, man, Aaron Rodgers, they gave you all the pieces you ever wanted. Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, and yet you guys are still 3-9. And you got Breece Hall as a running back. So I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers and saying, well, bro, I'm looking at you. Yeah, you suck, dude. Father Time's passed. It's over for you. Shout out to the Seattle Seahawks getting a huge road win on the road against the Jets. And then we got the Houston Texans beating up on the Jacksonville Jaguars 23-20. This was a very close game. C.J. Stroud, a quiet game relatively. 242 yards passing and a touchdown. Joe Mixon had a touchdown. Dalton Schultz had a touchdown. It was kind of a weird game. It wasn't that fun to watch. Mac Jones had 2 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence had a pick. Trevor Lawrence is washed up. We look at the Jacksonville Jaguars and realize, yep, they are the worst team in the NFL. They are 2-10. It's terrible, man. And they have talent there. ETN, they have some dogs there, and it's just like Tank Bigsby, Brian Thomas Jr., who went crazy. He had 76 yards receiving and a touchdown. Parker Washington had 103 yards receiving and a touchdown for the Jags, yet they still lost this game. And we look at Houston, this was a must-win for Houston, man. They were kind of on a downslope. We look at C.J. Stroud, kind of really in a slump this past month offensively. Nico Collins needs to get involved more. Yes, he had 119 yards receiving, no touchdowns, but over 119 yards, that's great. But I'm looking at C.J. Stroud in Houston and saying, well, if you guys want to make a deep run in the playoffs, can you guys beat a team like the Buffalo Bills? Can you guys beat a team like the Baltimore Ravens? Because right now, what I'm seeing from the Houston Texans is no. they can't beat those type of teams in the playoffs. So they're looking for a playoff push. This was a huge win on the road against a division rival who are trash. Jacksonville Jaguars, the worst team in the NFL, so hats off to the Houston Texans. And then we got the Arizona Cardinals losing to the Minnesota Vikings 22-23. This was a close game. I actually took Arizona. I think they were plus like 3.5. That bet hit. So shout out to my Arizona Cardinals, even though they lost. Kyler Murray had a touchdown and 2 picks. And then you had Sam Darnold, 235 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. And we saw, man, it was just Aaron Jones had a touchdown. They were lucky. Minnesota Vikings were lucky to pull off this W. Let's be honest here. They should have lost this game. Arizona lost this more than Minnesota won it. So, like, we look at Minnesota and say, yes, they got, Daniel Jones. But right now, it's Sam Darnold's team, and they're looking nice. Minnesota is 10-2. They're a quiet 10-2 team. Let's be honest here. I don't think they're going to do anything in the playoffs. Come on. You guys think the Minnesota Vikings are going to make a Super Bowl run? Yes, I get it. They had the best receiver in the NFL, Justin Jefferson. But overall, I don't see it going really deep in the playoffs this year for Minnesota. But a big win at home. Let's go! And then we got the Tennessee Titans losing to the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders ran right through the Tennessee Titans 42-19. Jaden Daniels had a game. He had 206 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. He just had a game, man. Brian Robinson Jr. scored a touchdown. Chris Rodriguez Jr. scored a touchdown. It was just a mop-up. We look at the Tennessee Titans. They're trash. They will not make the playoffs this year. Another trash division rival for my Indianapolis Colts. That's huge, though. Washington Commanders, they will make the playoffs this year with rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels surprised a lot of people, including myself, this year. I mean, we're talking about a guy who probably should have went number 1 overall. I mean, his numbers are speaking for itself right now. They're going to run deep this year. Shout out to Jaden Daniels and Washington Commanders getting the job done, 42-19. Let's go! And then we got the LA Rams getting a huge win in the New Orleans Saints. It gets the New Orleans Saints 21-14. And this was a huge game for the LA Rams, man. Sean McVay came through. Matthew Stafford, 183 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Kyren Williams had a touchdown. And we saw Blake Corum rush 8 yards, 42 yards rushing. Shout out to Blake Corum, Michigan. We saw Michigan this past weekend get the huge dub against Ohio State. Puka Nacua, 56 yards receiving and a touchdown. And I'm telling you right now, man, the LA Rams and Sean McVay, they always make this second half season push into the playoffs, and they're a dangerous team. Even though they lost a couple years in the playoffs, and we saw, but 3 years ago they lost in the Super Bowl to the they beat the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. So we saw them win a Super Bowl about 3 years ago. Then they kept coming up short in the playoffs, but they are Super Bowl champions a couple years ago. So shout out to Sean McVay. Aaron Donald already retired, but right now the Rams, dude, they can make a big playoff push. Cooper Kupp, they got Puka Nacua. They got so many great stars on their team to where, hey, this is the time where the Rams start to rack up wins. I'm telling you right now, if the Rams do win out, they will make the playoffs, and they're scary for any team. I mean, they had the Bills next week, 49ers, and then a lot of division games, but it doesn't get any easier for the Rams. But if they do make a playoff push here, this is the time. What a road win by the LA Rams. Let's go! And then we got the Philadelphia Eagles winning against the Baltimore Ravens on the road, 24-19. This was a really close game. Jalen Hurts had a touchdown. Saquon Barkley, 107 yards rushing and a touchdown. We saw Derrick Henry have 19 carries, 82 yards rushing. He did not have a touchdown this game, but we look at Saquon and Derrick Henry, the best running backs in the league by a long shot. This was the game of the week. We got them together, but Philly came on top, man. Philly is just, they're honestly, having Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia makes them just so much better, dude, and it makes them a playoff threat this year. And we're talking about a team that the Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon Barkley, led by Saquon and Jalen Hurts. I'm telling you, they can win a Super Bowl this year. They really can. With that run game and how they're just playing overall as a team, they can definitely run it all the way. So I cannot wait to see what develops for them. But shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, 24-19 over the Ravens on the road. So this was a huge win. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts. Let's go! And then we got the Buffalo Bills beating up on the San Francisco 49ers, 35-10. Buffalo Bills, this was a Buffalo Bills type of game. It was in the snow, snowing like crazy, even though, yes, McCaffrey did get hurt. For San Francisco 49ers, McCaffrey suffered a PCL injury. He's out for the season, man. It's over with. The San Francisco 49ers have lost their season. They will not make the playoffs this year. They will not make it back to the Super Bowl. It's over with. I'm sorry. The injuries caught up to you guys. Deebo Samuel, he had a nice game, but he did fumble the ball this game. But it was all Buffalo, man. We look at Buffalo, Josh Allen, 148 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. James Cook had a touchdown. Ray Davis had a touchdown. Josh Allen had a rushing touchdown. It was a game where Buffalo just ate all day. It was them to eat, man. Shout out to the Buffalo Bills, man. I'm telling you, dude, the Buffalo Bills, they're a team to be reckoned with. Their schedule doesn't get any easier, though. They go into L.A., then they play the Detroit Lions. So let's see what they're made about. But shout out to the Buffalo Bills, man, and Josh Allen. Right now, we look at Josh Allen, guys like Josh Allen and Jared Goff, guys who are winning these games where a lot of people don't talk about them being in the MVP conversation, but I got to include Jared Goff and Josh Allen in there. Obviously, Lamar, too, but nobody talks about Josh Allen, which is crazy this year because Josh Allen's put up some great numbers. He has 20 touchdowns, only 5 picks. That's the biggest difference for Josh Allen this year than any other year he's been in the NFL is his interceptions. He always threw a lot of interceptions in his first couple years in the league, even last year. Now he's only got 5 picks. So I think Josh Allen's really got better this offseason and understood, hey, if I don't throw picks in a game, we're going to win 90% of the time. It's not rocket science. So shout out to the Josh Allen, man, and the Buffalo Bills, man. They are a huge threat for any team in the NFL and definitely coming this playoff this year. And then we got the Monday Night Football game, the Cleveland Browns versus the Denver Broncos. This is going to be a really close game. I think really the upset's going to happen. I think Cleveland Brown upsets the Denver Broncos. I know it sounds crazy, but I've seen it all this year. We've seen Cleveland beat Pittsburgh Steelers. We've seen them beat the Baltimore Ravens. So I think Cleveland, it's not a long shot for them to beat Denver in Denver. So that's my upset game basically all weekend. But what a weekend it was from the NFL, from Thanksgiving games, from the Chicago Bears, fumble the bag, 32 seconds, and they don't call a timeout. They let the clock run down. Just bad coaching. They end up firing the head coach, which is good. First time ever in Chicago Bears history where they fired a coach midseason. And then the Dallas Cowboys won, Packers won, Chiefs won. So everybody won, including my Indianapolis Colts on the road, man. Shout out to my Indianapolis Colts, man. It doesn't get any easier, but next week my Colts, they go into Denver, man, on the 15th. So about 2 weeks from now, we're going into bye week. Shout out to my Indianapolis Colts. It's the NFL Week 13. It's the Clouded with Cam show. Let's go!